Okay, students, I'm going to show you how to turn this into a paintable surface using your white paint. Okay, this is for the collective mural project. Before you can paint anything on here, you need to paint it white. Okay, so to do that, you need a big brush. It doesn't have to be flat. I have a flat one, but if you got a round one, you can use a round one. Okay, what you're going to do is get your brush wet. Always get your brush wet before you stick it in the paint. Okay? Always get your brush wet before you stick it in the paint. I'm trying to make sure that you can see both the bucket and the paint and the thing that we are painting. So then you take your brush, scoop up a generous amount of that white paint, and I just dipped my brush in there, and now I have this sort of, I don't know how well you can see white in the hover cam. I have reduced the exposure so you can see better, but I'm not sure how effective it is. And then you just want to put a thin layer on there. Okay? The reason you want to add some water is because if you try to do all of this in one coat, when it dries, it's going to peel off and flake, and you're going to use up all your paint, all your white paint that I sent home with you, which you need to mix with other colors, and I'll show you how to do that later. Alright, now even if you don't have a flat brush, you still want to sort of brush it back and forth like that so you get a nice even layer of paint on there. We're doing this on that piece of cardboard that I showed you how to cut for the collective mural project. You need to do this to 5 or 6 pieces of cardboard, depending on how many little squares I gave you in your art kit for the collective mural project. Okay. Now, here's a hot tip for you students. I only had 2 pieces of canvas board to give you. Now, professional artists would not paint paintings that they're going to sell on cardboard because it's not acid-free. That has to do with the pH, not actual acid, like battery acid or whatever. It's all about the pH, because what happens is if you're using cardboard as a support for your artwork, it'll work, and that's why we're doing it, but it has acid in it, and that causes yellowing. Some of the chemicals in the cardboard might seep through your painting one day. It'll take years for that to happen, but it could happen. It's just not what they call archival. Archival means that the materials and supplies that you use to create your artwork are of a quality that they will last for a long, long time. And we think about that because think of some of the artists whose work we've looked at in this classroom. Some of it's 500 years old, and one of the reasons that it's 500 years old is because they used quality materials. Think of the artists who used materials that weren't really great, like Leonardo da Vinci in The Last Supper. He did an experiment with oil paint in plaster, so oil and water don't mix, and what happened? It started flaking off. It's been an enormous restoration project for I don't even know how many decades they've been working on it, but they have managed to preserve it. But you don't want that happening to your artwork. If you were to sell your artwork to a collector, you want to make sure that the artwork that you sell them is going to stand the test of time. And cardboard, while it's good for high school art projects, it does not stand the test of time. Okay, now look at this. This is not quite dry, but it's almost dry. I'm going to set it aside and come back and put probably 2 more coats on it, okay? Before I do, I'm going to rinse my brush. Look at what I'm doing here to rinse my brush. I'm scrubbing the brush on the side of the bucket, okay? Why am I scrubbing my brush on the side of the bucket? This is when I miss having you guys in class, because this is when I would hear several of you say, because I want to get the paint out. Why do I want to get the paint out? Because acrylic paint ruins brushes. And this is when I could find out who was paying attention and remembered everything I taught you about keeping your brushes clean. All right, I'm using this blotter paper over here. It's not as good as the paper towels you have at home. But look, my brush is clean. I have some on the Fair Rule. Just going to wipe that with my thumb and wipe it off. Okay, but look at that. No paint in that brush. I can lay it down. All right, I'll be back in a moment to put another coat or 2 of white paint on this board. When we're done, we want to end up with something like this, something that's white, and you can do the paintings that you're going to be doing for the collective mural on this. Okay, I let that sit for about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to go back and put another coat on it. Again, I'm going to scoop out some of my paint, put it in my fancy palette over here. Those of you in my class will recognize this as cottage cheese tubs lids. In fact, they're the ones that go on these cottage cheese tubs that we get from Becky in the cafeteria. Speaking of which, I didn't put one of those in your art kit because I didn't have enough. But I imagine you've got disposable plastic lids that would normally go in your trash can at home. Now you can use them for art supplies. Now I'm going in the opposite direction just so I don't create a grain pattern in my support. Okay. And by the way, this doesn't have to be super solid white. We just want to get it wide enough so that you're not putting paint directly on the cardboard. The reason is that the color of the cardboard, whether it's gray or brown or whatever, is going to show through, and it's going to visually mix with the paint that you use to create a color that you don't want. But if this is wide enough, then it will be just like if you were painting on canvas in terms of the color that shows up in your finished artwork. Now, I did this earlier, and I did put this on a little thicker, and I went through nearly a whole cup of white on one board. Mixing with water is the way to go here because it's going to stretch your white paint. You can come back and get more white paint from me. I do have some more. I don't have a lot, but I have some more. But you want to make this paint go as far as it can because we are on a limited supply. Okay, there's coat number 2. I'm going to put a little more over here. And again, I'm going to go away for about 10 minutes and come back. But first, I am going to clean my brush. I'm going to get all that paint out of there. I had a little paint on the Fair Rule there. Now I'm going to blot. Yeah, I think I could rinse a little more. Now I'm going to blot some more. Okay. Put the lid on my paint, walk away for 10 minutes. Okay, I'm back, and I'm going to do one more coat. Okay. So again, well, I guess I got to take the lid off of my paint here. Put a little water on my palette, grab a little bit of paint, grab a little more water. Now I'm going to go back in this direction. I'm also going to try and patch up those little fingerprints. If my art room was a crime scene, I'd easily be convicted on the evidence of my fingerprints. They're everywhere. Alright, this is coat number 3, and this is plenty white enough for the project that we're going to do. Okay, a little more paint, a little more water. Now ideally, like if I was going to do this project, you know, really beautifully, and archivally and all of that, A, I wouldn't use cardboard, B, I wouldn't use acrylic paint for my white background. I would use gesso. Gesso is a little more matte, a little more grippy, has a little more tooth, as we say, and but it really doesn't matter for this. There are times when you want to do this the regulation way, but high school art class, when you're first trying something out, is not necessarily the time for that. There is a time for that in high school art class, like in AP art. But when we're just experimenting and trying to learn how to do new fun things, we can do this. It's one of the things I love about art. You can use materials at hand to make cool stuff. Alright, that is all of the paint that I am going to put on that. That is plenty white enough for our background. And what am I doing? I'm cleaning my brushes. I hope if you didn't get anything else out of this little video, you got this. Always thoroughly clean your brushes. Don't leave acrylic paint in your brushes. You know, when they're your brushes, your own personal brushes, you know, you'll cry if you love painting and you leave paint in them. And you can't paint in them anymore because, paint with them anymore because you ruined your brushes, because acrylic paint is basically plastic and it dries hard and it cannot be reconstituted with water any more than this jug could be reconstituted with water, okay? But in our case, I have given you guys every brush that the art department, which is me, has. And so hopefully these are all going to come back to me so we have them for next year. But if they do come back to me, awesome, way to go. Congratulations, kids, for preserving the brushes. But if they come back to me ruined with acrylic paint stuck in them, that's almost worse. So, and if you ruin them while you're at home, you're just going to have to provide your own brush, because I have given you all the brushes that I have. Okay, so please take care of your brushes. All right, it's the nice thing to do, it's the practical thing to do. And look at that. When this dries, you will have a support on which to do the collective mural pieces. By the way, you see that curve there? That's because you know, this is cardboard and it got wet, and so it's curving. Once this is completely dry, not a moment before it is completely dry, I will stack up all of my little white cardboard pieces that I've painted. You will stack up all of the white cardboard pieces that you've painted, but only after they dry completely, and put something heavy on top of them and let them sit overnight so that they can flatten out. Okay? All right, I'll see you in the next video where I show you what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be painting on these white squares.